Hi guys, Brian from the gas station here. I know you can't see me, but there's a reason for that. What I wanted to do today was give you a sort of a quick overview and I guess an instructional, on how to focus your camera. Now I know this sounds really basic and really stupid and like, Brian, we're complete idiots, or we're not complete idiots or whatever it is. But I find a lot of people, and I'm going to relate this specifically more towards the X-Pro1 and other cameras that rely on contrast detect focus. I will talk a little bit about phase detect and stuff like that, but not too much. But I wanted to give you sort of a really good idea on how to start. If you're having trouble focusing your X-Pro1 and or your XE1, and you want to actually take advantage of the new focus peaking features, I'll go over that a little bit too. But I wanted to show you basically how to use the autofocus on your X-Pro1 and to get the most out of it. Now there's a bunch of little there's a bunch of features involved in that, including continuous focus and that kind of thing. I'm not going to really go into that. I'm just going to go into like how to control the focus in the most basic manner, the autofocus, utilizing contrast detect, which is what this camera, the X-Pro1, kind of doing this in an awkward position today, so you kind of got to bear with me. But we'll wait as my video camera focuses. There we go. Okay, this is the X-Pro1 and how we utilize the contrast detect focus on it. Okay, so here we go. Alright, so contrast detect, let me just tell you a little bit about it, is just that. It's a contrast detection focus system. So let's see if we can get into focus here. There we go. Okay, so and what that does is it detects contrast, or it detects differences in shading, between white and black. Basically, or contrasting colors. Alright, this is going to be a little bit difficult to see, but I'm going to do the best I can. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see the green dot when it focuses properly. That's actually what we're looking for, is that little green dot. So again, the way contrast detect works is not like an SLR, a regular SLR, where you can just pretty much point it at anything, any surface or whatever it is, and it's going to just focus to that point. Contrast detect does require exactly what it says in its name, contrast. So if we're looking here at my little scene that I've set up here, if you look at, let's say, the little black stool in front, if I try and just focus on that, just on this, it's going to have trouble finding it. It's primarily because it's even doing it, it's getting it here sometimes too. But you're going to find that it's going to miss much more often trying to focus on this plain black surface. Actually, let's see if I can get a darker portion of it. There we go. See, it's going to start missing on these plain dark surfaces. It's going to have a hard time seeing any of that. What this camera wants is differences in color, or light and black. It's looking for the highest points of contrast. So if I go for a high contrast point, let's say where the lens on the front of my Polaroid here, it's going to find that very quickly. It's going to see the contrast between the two, and it's going to see the highest contrast point and the sharpness of that and focus on that. Likewise, if I go up here and you see where the little viewfinder is there, if I try and focus on that, it's going to see contrast between light and dark. If I try and focus, and I can zoom in here too, if I try and focus on the film holder I have over there further away, it's going to miss it. It's not going to be able to find it because there's nothing for it to gauge anything against. That's where you get a lot of your lens, what they call hunting. It's going in and out. That's what my lens is doing right now. Now this isn't a fault of the camera. This doesn't make the camera a bad camera. You're just not working the camera within its limitations, and you need to do that. So if I find a contrast point, which if I go directly to see that little piece of white tape on that black film holder and I focus on that, it's going to hit it. it's going to find that contrast point. And I've picked Frank Castle over there, who's actually got a camera on him. It's a little mini camera. I'll get a review on that little tiny thing. That's actually a real camera. We'll get to a review on that at some point too. But if we look over here, he's got a lot of contrast on his chest. He's got that white skull logo on the black shirt, and he's against a white background, and everything else seems to be hitting there, right? So, but then if I go back to the film holder where there's nothing for it to gauge anything against, it's going to have trouble focusing, even in bright light. You need to have contrast. You need to have differences in contrast, black and white. You need edges, you need that kind of stuff. You'll also probably have problems focusing, you know, through glass and things like that. If there's glare or reflection, it's going to pick up the highest contrast thing, and that's generally the thing that's closest to you. So again, here we go. So I'll focus right on Frank. We get the green box. I'll move right down here to that little viewfinder. I got that in focus, and I move right to the edge right there. And we have all of our focus points there, and everything's flashing up green, and it's actually doing it in a reasonable speed for an X-Pro1. So as we can tell, things can actually work, and then my video camera's out of focus. There we go. So things actually can work fairly well with this camera if you work within its limitations. You know, people will point at a blank white wall and say, my camera's not focusing. Well, yeah, no, it's not going to either. You can do that all night long and it's not going to work. But if you work on these high contrast points, you're going to have very good luck getting focus, right? And it's reasonably fast. It's not blazingly fast. That's not what this camera is. But if I'm looking at these high contrast points, I pretty much nail focus wherever I want. If I try and focus again on a blank point, again, maybe something dark where I can't really get anything, you're not going to have any luck. Now, cameras that have like hybrid autofocus systems with you know, phase detection and contrast detect, that's great, and you're going to have probably better luck, and those are going to work better in probably lower light than this will. One other thing you can do, and this is generally what I do if I'm taking a picture, I do what they call is focus and recompose. So let's say I want this little button over here in focus, right? I'll focus on that button, and then I want to recompose the shot. So I'll do that. Or I want to focus on the lens, and then I want part of the camera out of the picture. I just want to kind of do like a, you know, some sort of a weird abstract art thing. So that'll be in focus. Okay, let's see if we can get that back in the line here. So I'll focus there and then recompose the shot and then take the shot. So you press and hold the shutter button at that halfway position, and it'll hold focus there. Another thing you can do with one of the firmware updates on the X-Pro1 is you can now press the down button, and that's going to give you your grid, your focusing grid, and you can move your focus point anywhere you want on the screen, right? So I want to focus at that point there, that's where it's going to focus. Now I want to take another shot, but I want to focus on the lens, so I can go ahead and focus on that. Well, I decided I wanted to do yet another shot, and I wanted to focus on the viewfinder. So I can just move my focusing point around, and that's fine. That's a great way to do it too. I happen to think it's a little bit faster if, let's say I go back down here, and we'll put our focus point right in the middle. Here, if we just press, actually, if I'm down here and I press the menu OK button, it's going to put it right in the middle. So again, what I like to do, and I think it's much faster, is I will focus and then recompose, and my guy is still in focus. Or I can focus and then recompose. I think that's a very fast way of doing it, and a lot of people do it that way, and I think you might have some good luck with it. Again, you have to work within the confines of what the camera is designed to do. This is actually a technology limitation. So, you know, the fact that they didn't put phase detect autofocus in there, you know, oh well. Also, I will tell you that most cameras prefer a vertical line as opposed to a horizontal line. And this one's actually, it's picking it up pretty well here, but yeah, it'll generally a camera it takes a vertical line better than a horizontal, unless you have what it's called, and I'm sure you've heard this, is a cross-type focus point. So if you have cross-type focus points, generally it's going to be the center one or points working out from that. It might be in like a hash sort of shape, like the you know, hashtag kind of symbol. In that kind of designation with the focus point, the center focus point will generally be a cross type. And our cross type, all that means is that it can focus on the vertical and horizontal within that green box. Now the Fuji camera is really nice. I can click on the AF and I can expand the size of that box, right? So it'll give you sort of a broader range of things that can be in focus. But sometimes you want further detail, so you might want to shrink that box, right? So you want to just get one small particular point and make sure that's in focus, and that's fine. And you can work with that as you want. Again, the whole point here is just understanding what the limitations of the camera are, and I think you're going to have a lot better luck with your focus. Now the X-Pro1, they just came out with a new firmware release, so I'm going to show you what the focus peaking looks like. I'm using their 18 to 55 right now. Now I don't know if you can even see it or not, but the contrast in the picture, there's kind of like a shimmering white edge on everything, and the more you adjust your focus, the edge goes away and the picture goes out of focus, and the more in focus you get, that sharp white edge is going to show you where you are the most in focus, and it'll come and it'll go as you pass through that focus point. A better way of seeing that, especially on the X-Pro1, is if you press this thumb wheel, it'll zoom in. Okay, and you have a choice of, I think it's 3 times or 10 times or 5 times and 10 times, but it really zooms in a lot. So we're going to kind of like rack through our focus here. We're going to go way out of focus, and then we're going to bring it back, and it's going to slowly come into focus, and you're going to start seeing these shimmering white lines showing up. Here we go. There they go. So there's those shimmering white lines, and the brighter and contrastier and sharper those lines look, right there, that's what's going to be in focus. That's going to be my focus point. So that's kind of like and we'll see if we can zoom in on that and see how sharp that got. Yeah, so we got a pretty sharp picture. You get all the dust in the viewfinder and everything. That's great. Anyway, so that again, so if we wanted to do focus peaking even from here, long distance shot, I'm going to start zooming out, and you can see. So I've gone beyond the focus point of my subject, and it's gotten really sort of contrasty, and those white lines are really showing up, and then they go away as you move past those points. So again, if you use your zoom, your little magnification button, you're gonna get those points in focus pretty quick. And especially if you're using manual focus lenses, you're gonna have a much better time. I use like a 50 Summicron on here, and I've had really nice luck with the focus peaking. And you can see that that's pretty well sharp. So anyway, again, this is just a quick focus primer. It's kind of using just the X-Pro1, but pretty much any contrast detect camera and focus system is going to be very similar in its use and limitations. So again, keep the limitations in mind, know what you're doing, focus on the edges, try and go for vertical lines. If you have cross type, you can focus on horizontal lines as well. If you don't have that, again, just work the vertical lines, work the sharp edges, work where there's light and dark, and you're going to have a much easier time composing your shots. You know, unfortunately, these cameras are not just, hey, I'll just point it at whatever I want and it's going to grab whatever, you know, the right thing is. You know, there are multiple focus points, but those work better with a larger depth of field. So if you're working, you know, at higher f-stops, you know, f8 and, you know, f8, you know, and up from there, you're going to have maybe some better luck, you know, with the matrix focus kind of stuff, you know, where it uses 6 auto points simultaneously. I think you get a lot more accurate focus going, just working your contrast points, going from there, find a contrast point to there, and then recompose. You're going to have great luck with it, and you're going to have a good time getting that camera doing what you want it to do. You're not just hoping for the technology to do its job. You got to work with the technology. So anyway, any questions, concerns? I know this is kind of like, you know, just basic tutorial, but you know, if you guys want me to do more, I'm happy to do more. If not, I might do them anyway. But anyway, that's about it. Brian from the gas station. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Again, this is not totally comprehensive. This is just sort of a quick overview and some quick tips on how to get focusing right in your X-Pro1. So again, that the focus peaking and all that stuff, that's done through manual focusing, through the manual focusing mode on the X-Pro1 and on the XE1. But anyway, but this should, again, like I said, apply to most cameras that you use. So anyway, that's it. Brian from the gas station. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.